Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today, we're going to be talking about the amendments to the WARN Act in New Jersey that are coming up. So, layoffs are about to be a little bit more complicated, and that can help you. There's emergent amendments to the New Jersey WARN Act. So, the WARN Act, which is a federal act, is the Worker Adjustment and Retraining and Notification Act. Um, it was filed in 1988, and again, it's a federal act that dictates to all the states. New Jersey and many other states have their own. So they're making amendments to it. Let's talk about how that impacts you. So New Jersey had this really long name, which was the Millville Dallas Aeromotive Plant Job Loss Notification Act, which is also known as the New Jersey WARN Act. I imagine that it was a result of something that had happened at the Millville Dallas Aeromotive Plant. But it's a little bit ridiculous of a name, and it was supposed to go into effect July of 2020, but it didn't go into effect because of COVID. Don't know how COVID impacts this. I imagine I have no idea. I can't answer that question. But somehow COVID or our response to COVID delayed the implementation of this allegedly important act. And what federally the WARN Act does is make sure that you receive notice when a large portion of employees are about to be laid off. That's a large portion of the federal act. There's other things that are involved, but that's part of it. Um, and so the New Jersey WARN Act would cover all employers with 100 or more employees total. Uh, and employees outside of New Jersey as long as the employer has operated within New Jersey for the last 3 years. So they could have three employees in New Jersey and have to comply with the New Jersey WARN Act if they have 97 in New York. And that causes a lot of problems with respect to complying with the law. Furthermore, they're going to have to, instead of notifying employees 60 days before a mass layoff. They're going to have to notify them 90 days. And frankly, I don't I don't know how effective this is at all. Um, but beyond that is that it has some penalties where that are a little bit unique. So let me read here. The threshold for an event requiring advance notice under the law would be lowered to include when an employee terminates or transfers its operations in an establishment during any continuous 30-day period that results in the termination of 50 or more employees, or the employer conducts a mass layoff defined as reduction in force that results in the termination of 50 or more employees at any group of locations uh, within New Jersey, including employees who report to any location in New Jersey. So, it notes here that this removes the requirement that the terminated employees comprise at least 33% of the applicable workforce. And that's the important part, right? So, the regular WARN Act is all about percentages. Now, and so was the New Jersey WARN Act. Now it's just 50 employees. For example, if you have 1,000 or 2,000 employees, you still are responsible for complying with the WARN Act when you let go 50, which is a tiny portion of your workforce and may happen without you knowing or without, some serious thought. That's not a large amount, but this gives you more rights in the state of New Jersey, and they think that this will help employees. I tend to not believe that, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the next 3 points. Change with the WARN Act in New Jersey is that the employer has to pay 1 week of severance pay for each year that the employee has worked there. So if an employee has worked for the company for 30 years, then the employer must pay 30 weeks of employment. What that means, so that sounds great, right? It sounds like it will help employees out by reducing layoffs, but companies are also a master of saving capital. They don't just make their money because they're dumb, right? They think about things. And so, if I were an employer in New Jersey and I thought that layoffs would come, because the WARN Act typically requires it's over a certain time period. What that means is that if I were an employer in New Jersey, I would start firing much earlier or start laying off much earlier in order to reduce any severance I paid. Because if I started this process, way before anyone needed to, then we would be fine. We wouldn't have to start paying severance pay. And I think that that sort of jump the gun mentality will probably be endemic, and unfortunately, a lot of people will lose their job as a result of this bill. But I want to hear what you have to think, what you have to say below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.